Let me guess, you are tired of constantly decluttering your beauty products, only to see all that clutter magically reappear time and time again. It is frustrating, it's a never-ending cycle, and it wastes your precious time and your money. But what if I told you could finally understand why this keeps happening to you? And more importantly, learn practical, lasting strategies to finally break free. Welcome to the Ultimate Beauty Declutter Masterclass. We're about to transform your routine and help you truly love the collection that you have. I want to show that you can have a beautiful self-care routine that is complete, likely with all of the things you've already purchased recently or not so recently. Like, you don't need to go and buy the latest and greatest thing that is being advertised to you on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. That is the power of using what you have and only focusing on shopping your own stash. You trust your taste instead of having to constantly rely on what other people are pushing at you. And you can regain power in your personal finances, because we all know that overspending on cosmetics, it can get so expensive. That bundle of money would look so much cuter in your investment account, girly. Let's talk about what Project Pan really is. Using what you already have, and the goal is to reduce waste, eliminates so much decision fatigue, and actually helps you look more put together. Isn't that surprising? In the same way that capsule wardrobes help you look more put together, so does having less cosmetics, because you just have less of a mess. For me, it's not just about hitting pan in Project Pan or, using up a bronzer. It's about practicing letting go of products, especially when they no longer serve you. So you can rotate your possessions, do shop my stash, and essentially use something until you realize that you don't want to be using it anymore and get rid of it, whether you finished it or not. Obviously, the goal is normally to finish the item, but you can't pressure yourself to do that all the time either. That's what I really like about Project Pan. The rules are what you want, essentially. It also helped me let go of things I've kept just in case I need it or out of guilt. Getting honest about what I actually love to use and don't like to use. Most importantly, you're not buying into what society, marketers, influencers, and everyone is telling you that you need to buy. Stop being influenced to buy things essentially that you don't really even need and might not even like before you finish it up. I have my makeup inventory, if you will, in a long IKEA Alex 9 drawer that lives in a closet in my spare room. Did some lipstick declutters. If you haven't seen those, you can check them out on my channel. I swatched all 70 lipsticks on my lips to declutter them. So it took a long time for me to film that. I had to have a heart-to-heart with myself about what colors really did and didn't look good on me and what needed to go. For skincare, that's organized by category in my Alex 6 drawer, which you can actually see right there in the shot. A stash of hair and body care, a little bit of body care. It's mostly hair care. Perfumes are tucked into a few different drawers. In my IKEA Alex 6 drawers, I've got some wintry / my personal fragrances in my room, and then I have another Alex 6 drawer, and that's a lot of perfumes that I've just been dwindling down slowly. And I have finished quite a few perfumes in my Partners in Cream, a Project Pan that was only and completely dedicated to using up cream and liquid products. Didn't matter if it was makeup, hair care, or body care, or perfume. That's a fun one if you want to use up things that are faster to expire. Let me talk about how I rotate and replenish. I use what is in my everyday section. As things dry out or stop working for me, or I decide a product is not good or it's done, I toss that and then I go into my organized stash as if I was going shopping, except I'm shopping my stash shopping my inventory, if you will, to replenish the drawers. And I do that with my skincare as well. So essentially, I'm not buying anything. The last time I bought a product, like a beauty product, was a single Fructis shampoo. What do I do with the products I don't love? Okay, I try to repurpose, for instance, with shampoo that doesn't work for me. If I don't like the way that it leaves my hair after a wash, I will use it to wash brushes. One of you actually recommended whatever shampoo doesn't work for you, you can actually use as a hand wash. I really like that idea. I haven't done it yet, but I am considering it. I've just actually really dwindled down my shampoo stash and my conditioner stash. I use 5 to 6 bottles of shampoo in the year, and I think I had like 20 to use up. If you're on a similar journey, what really helped me was starting a low buy to no buy, and also starting to track my empties from about 2020 to mid 2024. And I also was a lot more active at Project Pan and Shop My Stash, etc. So that we're only using our time to use the products that we love, and also not wasting time organizing, decluttering, and purchasing and window shopping for things we really don't essentially need. And through doing that, I learned how many cleansers I finish up in the year, how many moisturizers, how many body moisturizers, how many products do I actually use up. Let's talk about usage here a little bit. So in general, let's take the example of shampoo and conditioner. I use about 6 shampoos a year and 5 conditioners. So there's definitely a discrepancy between what's marketed and sold to us versus what you actually need and use. Another thing that's working against us a bit is the psychology of shopping. Shopping, as you know, triggers dopamine, a hormone that affects many aspects of your body. It gives you a sense of motivation and pleasure, which inevitably can make you enjoy repeating certain behaviors and can actually create addictions. Overconsumption creates a short-term reward that doesn't bring long-term benefit. And collecting products replaces mindful consumption with impulsive purchases. For example, let's say you're someone who really enjoys collecting lipsticks or eyeshadow palettes like in the 2010s, blushes. But in reality, have you ever looked at how many of those you finish to completion? And chances are you probably don't, because if you have that many, you maybe rotate them. Mind you, you may have like 4 or 5 favorites that are pretty worn in, but for the most part, you're probably not inclined to finish a product to completion when you are spoiled for choice. And then when you get bored of those and there's a new release, you might be interested in replenishing your collection with some more goodies. Sure, you can declutter to offset that overpurchasing, but that is when it becomes an endless cycle. A collection implies that you're keeping these things to look at all the time for keepsakes and not actually using to completion or going in with the objective of dwindling down what you actually own. There's a fine line between it being a hobby and it just being counterproductive to your well-being. Like, it's normal to enjoy collecting things. I am still a culprit of collecting things. I know that I am of that mindset and I really enjoy it, but a hobby sometimes can become so overwhelming when you have to purchase more storage, keeping that collection organized and keeping it usable, because if it's all shoved in drawers or shoved in boxes, it's a bit more of a dumpster bin of a makeup drawer than it is actually a collection. What is the point of throwing things out that you like? Why would you want to declutter things that you like? Why buy them in the first place? Then you don't even have to make the decision later. So one tip I have is to keep a log of your usage. It may seem so tedious and ridiculous at first. I used to track my usages when I would do Project Pan. I participated in something called Pan Those Eyeshadows. There's also a Pan That Palette challenge, for instance, where you use a palette for a determined amount of period of time, whatever you choose, and you essentially try to see if you can hit pan on those eyeshadows or finish them to completion. That's what some people here on YouTube do. I quickly realized that I'm not very successful at that. So I did go into Pan Those Eyeshadows, which was a roulette style where you set an objective or a usage objective for example, 5 eyeshadows. If you gamify usage tracking, if you're the type of person who likes challenges, you might find that really helpful, because in realizing how long it took me to even hit pan on certain eyeshadows, whether that be 30 uses, 45 uses, or how long it took me to finish up a concealer or a foundation based off of the way that I would use the product, it was such an eye-opener as to how much of my makeup collection I didn't need. There's no way I could have finished and gone through everything that I ultimately ended up throwing out, which you can see in my makeup declutters. So I invite you to watch those videos if you're looking for motivation, and a lot of my project pans are in playlists on this channel. Rather than decluttering and purchasing and decluttering and cycling through that, you can just shop your stash, stop accumulating, but declutter bit by bit over time. And it's so much less painful. Honestly, I still experience guilt, but it has really killed my craving to shop completely, because I can see that I've saved so much money and I don't spend time looking at reviews, trying to compare products, which ultimately, if a concealer conceals, it has served its purpose. Why do I need to go and find the biggest and baddest and best concealer, And for a while, it made sense because it was the objective on my channel. But if that's not really the objective of something greater that you're working on and you're just collecting, you might want to reevaluate why. Where does this impulse inclination come from, right? Because a lot of times we're shopping to fill voids, or we use these hobbies and habits to avoid real feelings that are locked up inside that we just haven't unpacked. So keep a log of the products that you use. I used Google Sheets, it's free. And at the end of the year, because what I would do is I would set up columns. I also have a video on how I set up my Excel for Project Pan or for calculating my empties. And I learned a lot about my usage patterns. I no longer spend the time doing that. Think of it like calorie counting when you first embark on a diet and start to understand how much you're actually consuming when you've gained weight and not realized where that weight came from. A lot of times people just do it at the beginning of their journey, and once they become familiar with quantities, they no longer see the purpose of doing that because it's already ingrained. If you do this and you pause before buying things, actually give yourself 24 to 48 hours before you're fulfilling your Sephora order or what have you, you can evaluate whether you're truly replenishing something you used up or just collecting more clutter, which you will ultimately have to deal with at a later date. When I'm buying something, am I buying another problem? Am I buying something that I'm just going to have to deal with sooner rather than later? Is it just going to be something I'm going to end up throwing out in 2 years and feeling guilty about? I try to make my approach to decluttering as mindful as possible. So the way that I do that, because remember, you want it to be pleasurable. You want dopamine associated to the good activity and not the overbuying and the overshopping and the overconsumption. We need to rewire our brains here. Rather than going in right away and picking out things that I need to throw out, or telling myself, I gotta get rid of 50% of this or 80% of this has to be gone. through this declutter session. Doesn't that sound aggressive, abrasive? Don't you feel resistance towards those kind of tasks? So instead, I'll pick away at things that I know that I want to keep and that I'm interested in using up. I'll take those things out and separate them. So focus on what you love to use and what you'd love to keep, because that is going to make things so much easier. It'll also reduce overwhelm. One thing that I do to reduce overwhelm is I keep my daily drivers in a little clear bin, and that's what I use every day to get ready. And I switch this out. Some people call this shop my stash, so to speak, especially if you're switching things out, going through your collection. I keep the majority of the products that I own separated from my everyday products, focus on the everyday products. And when I feel like there's something lacking or there's something that I need to replace because it's non-seasonal or it's almost done, like this lip gloss is on its last days, and I don't think I'm going to remove the stopper to scrape out every little nook and cranny because, to be honest, I have a lot of lip gloss. So I'm not worried about it. Anything that looks immediately like you should throw it out because it's too old or it's used up, which this is one thing, like as soon as this compact breaks, because it's already cracked on one hinge, if it cracks completely and I find it unpleasurable to use up the product. I know some people would be like, oh, well, like you can repress it into another compact that of a product that you've used up, blah, 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 blah. If you are in your excess era, you don't need to do that. If you're not the type of person who enjoys panning to completion and you're just irritated with the packaging of the product, just get rid of it. I give you permission, release that guilt, and just let it go. I can't stand, for example, like old NARS packaging. The sticky packaging, like tactilely is so irritating to me that it removes the pleasurable experience of using the product. I actually enjoy using makeup and I don't want things to make it displeasurable, you know? Does that make any sense? I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm trying to just be elaborative so that you can find creative ways to use up your products within reason. So definitely keep items that you are planning to use up visible and accessible to you, because you will find that it makes finishing up products much easier and also makes decluttering products easier, because you might try this on a Thursday and it's fine, and then you realize you don't reach for it in a month, or the next time you reach for it, the consistency is off. You chuck it, you go into your stash and replace it with something else and work on it one at a time. It really reduces overwhelm. Another habit that I adopted as well is to keep those things where you have a tendency of using them. I have a tendency of doing my makeup right here because it's in front of a window. Or for instance, if I'm trying to use up a body lotion, I'm gonna keep that one body lotion that I wanna use up in the bathroom so that it's ready for me to use when I hop out of the shower, which is the best time to use body lotion. I keep things where I apply them. Same with perfume. You know, you wouldn't keep your toothbrush and your toothpaste in the living room because that's not where you use them, right? If there's anything you're absolutely not sure or certain about decluttering, you can always revisit it later. I really recommend keeping a maybe box for certain items, or like a maybe drawer even. It can be really easy to go through like a super purge session where you chuck everything out without thinking about it because you're just fed up and overwhelmed. Having the maybe box and revisiting it every once in a while helps me release attachment to throwing things out, because I look at it and once revisited, I'm like, well, I haven't used it since the last time I looked at it, or I'll use it right then and there and realize I didn't really like this that much and I don't need it. I also like to adopt a habit of decluttering when I'm not decluttering. So essentially what I mean is I like to graze. Sort of like a cow munches on grass in a field. They don't eat everything all in one sitting. You're decluttering as you go. So immediately, if I see something that doesn't work, like I said, I try it on. Oh, it feels like it's off, or I don't like the way this looks on me. Chuck it right then and there. Don't give yourself the opportunity to have to revisit it if you're certain you won't use it again. The maybe box is for when you're not sure. But when you do have that gut feeling like, like I don't really like that eyeliner anymore, chuck it now. And before you know it, if you've been doing that for a while, these things accumulate. I mean, James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits, that 1% rule does have a compounding effect on your ability to declutter when you make less a fuss of it and it sort of just becomes one of your habits, one of your common behaviors. Here is what changed the game for me. I did a declutter using AI and color analysis. If you don't know about seasonal color analysis, check it out. It can be overwhelming, but what you can do to diminish the overwhelm is simply take a picture of yourself in front of natural light, in front of a window without any makeup, pop that into ChatGPT. For me, it confirmed that I was a deep winter, no surprise. Deep winters often have a problem with bronzer, and I had so many bronzers because bronzers were so popular in the 2010s, and because it's a powder product, I was like, oh, I can keep this for a long time, even if it's expired, it doesn't smell, I can still use this. I could not, for the world of me, figure out why I looked so muddy, or bronzers really pulled orange on me. Turns out I don't look that great in bronzer, especially with contours. They have to be cooler toned or on the neutral side. Just that eliminated so much bulk from my collection. Which lipsticks were too warm toned, not pigmented enough because of the contrast that I have with dark hair and light skin. Highly recommend doing a color analysis because it'll very much put into perspective what actually looks good on you. And of course, you can use your own discretion when you decide not to declutter certain things that have sentimental value, but chances are you can eliminate a great number of the bulk and not just keep things because they're still good. I did this over the span of 2 weeks. I would just casually pick up a container, write down the brand and the shade name, and with that alone, ChatGPT or Google Gemini was able to tell me if it was too warm, too light, too cool, too whatever for my complexion. Game changer. Just ask it to make a little table. You can even pop into Google Sheets. That way you will have a running inventory of your collection in no time. So I did not declutter into the void. I also rotate my products monthly so that I'm always working out of a bag of pre-selected products that work well for me. Shopping my stash is easy peasy. I open the drawer, I pick out a replacement product, and there are no makeup items in other places other than my everyday makeup bag. That's it. I don't even miss having an everyday makeup drawer. If I have the itch to try something else, I can swap out a lipstick or an eyeshadow palette and get the variety and spice that I desire in my life without the mess. Maybe you're decluttering, but you're still buying too much, or you're still buying, period. Let's be honest here, okay? I was a beauty blogger for over 10 years and I received a lot of PR. I shopped for a lot of makeup. My mom shopped for a lot of makeup and then she passed away and I had all of her makeup to declutter too. I know that from social media, from TikTok and Instagram and all of the commentary content that's been coming out about beauty consumption habits, that I am not alone in possessing too much makeup. Maybe if you're here at this video, maybe you own a lot of stuff. You finish one of your 20 cleansers and go out and buy another one. Girl, you don't need that. If you've been into makeup for years, you probably have more than you could ever use up in a lifetime, let alone before expiration dates. So you declutter a blush and then you scroll through Sephora, you fill up your cart, you've just bought a new one. That's not editing down your collection if you declutter one and you go and buy a new one. Ideally, you would be depleting all the products in a specific category before purchasing something new. And I know some of you are gonna be like, oh, but like, I wanna live, I wanna shop, you know, like, really though, really? Is that what you're telling yourself, that shopping is allowing you to live more? Shopping for cosmetics is not a hobby. Not in this economy. Effectively draining your bank account of unnecessary purchases that could have served for something else. Think about how many lipsticks it costs to buy the next thing that you want, right? Here's what actually works. Going on a no buy or a low buy. If you really feel like you have the impulse, one addiction needs to be replaced with another, and that's where Project Pan comes in. Maybe you should try to only replace a product when you've completely finished everything in that category. Say you have 3 foundations, you've finished one, and then you want to go out and buy another, but you still have 2 more. Maybe hold off buying another foundation. Is said foundation a little bit too light, too dark, too cool, too warm for your skin tone? If you should decide to declutter both of them and purchase something that's better fitting to you, that's your choice, I understand. But you should try to see if you can actually repurpose that product or find a way to make it work for you at your current state. Another thing that is helpful is to keep a run-on checklist of all the products that you want, so essentially a wish list. In one column, put the name of the product, and the next column, put the price. And then write down a little blurb of why you want it, and then forget about that list. Okay, you can come back to it when you want to add a new product at the end of the month. Go and look through it. Have you really been thinking incessantly about them? Or do you have what you need already in your collection? Spoiler alert, most of the items that you put down on that list are probably not even going to be on your wish list by the time you get to the moment where you need to go and buy a new product. Chances are there's a new and improved and better version of the product that you thought you wanted to buy 6 months ago, because there's something new coming out every freaking 5 seconds. And sometimes by the time you get to that item, you don't even want it anymore. You're not using what you have. The appeal of makeup is often marketing at this point. Just because of the packaging, it feels like a different product. You probably already have something similar in your collection. How many peach blushes do you need? So instead, cultivate a rotating routine monthly, at least. Repurpose things such as lipstick as blush, eyeshadow as eyeliner. Maybe you've got lots of brushes, maybe you need to rotate them, maybe you need to use your sponges more. Try different methods of applying or using that same product. Challenge yourself to make 3, 4, 5 looks using the same eyeshadow palette. Figure out the placement of eyeshadows that you like best. When we talk about Project Pan, because I definitely recommend it. I love Project Pan. It taught me so much, and doing it throughout the years has really shown me what my makeup usage habits are. I recommend focusing more on usage than actually trying to finish a product, because back when I did Partners in Cream, I realized that it took me more than a year to finish a Charlotte Tilbury blush stick. If you're waiting more than a year to hit pan on one category of product and you have 20 more sitting in your drawer, those will probably go off before you have the chance to get to them. So consider rotating and doing more of a usage-based project, especially at first, because it can be very discouraging to put in 50 uses in a product and not even be halfway done. It's so eye-opening. Dude, unless you're a makeup artist and you do makeup on people of different skin tones, skin depths, and skin types, you probably don't need 40 lipsticks. And look, I'm being a hypocritical person right now, because I definitely have a stash of definitely more than 40 lip products, but I'm not out there going and buying more. I had to learn the hard way that this set of lips is never gonna get through all of those lipsticks, and that all of those things are destined to landfill whether I finish them or not. Now, I tailor everything to me, my coloring, my lifestyle, my preferences. I recommend you do the same. Created a little store drawer set. If any drawer is overflowing, it's definitely time for another declutter. Start questioning why said drawer is even expanding in products. And now when I finish something, I revisit a wish list and decide whether I even want said replacement product or not. Sometimes you don't even need to replenish a category. For me, for instance, gel liners, the kinds that come in a little pot that you have to dip your brush into, they dry out too fast for me to finish them, and I feel like it's super high maintenance, and I would so much more rather do a liquid eyeliner. You don't need to have every version of consistency of a product, nor every color. Well, amigas, if you found this video helpful, you better hit that subscribe button. Watch the video on the screen for my full declutter series, where I actually go through the products myself. You can see me go through the masterclass process. And let's keep transforming our lives one intentional step at a time.